All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the very first TCL-47 meetup. Today's October 1st, 2022. And I guess we're just going to start off kicking off as a quick intro. So you could, not could, but state your name, pronouns, if you feel comfortable, where you're from, what do you do, and a fun fact, a joke, or anything you want to share in the intro. And then we'll just kind of go from there. So I guess I will start and then I'll what's called popcorn, meaning I will pass the torch to someone else. And then that next person could pass the torch to someone else. So hello, my name is Yolanda. I am from San Diego, California. I was originally in healthcare before I transitioned over. Oh, I'm sorry, my pronouns are she, her. I'm a career changer. So for about 5 to 6 years, I was a certified occupational therapy assistant. And then I transferred over to tech. So I am now a software engineer and I have been working for about 10 months now, I think. So almost hitting the 1 year mark. I don't have any fun jokes, but a fun tidbit, I'm bilingual. I can speak Japanese and English, and I own and ride a motorcycle. My motorcycle is like kind of out of commission, but I do have a legitimate license. Okay, and then I will pass the torch to Viet.
Viet. My pronouns are he, him. I live in Tulsa, Oklahoma right now. Yeah, what do? I'm a software engineer at a startup. Just like Yolanda, I am just short of a year at my current job. I also switched careers because who studies CS anymore when we could just go to boot camps and something like Collab and land jobs. Fun fact, I've been rock climbing for almost 20 years. That's what I was doing, prior to becoming a software engineer. And let's go with Mariah.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm Mariah, she, her pronouns. I'm located in Sherwood, Oregon. I'm currently in a boot camp for software engineering, just less than a month away from graduating now. So it's very exciting, but I am also a career changer. I started in healthcare as well, and then found my way here. And something I guess I'll share is I'm trying really hard to convince myself I do not need to get a puppy. And that's what I'm working through right now. And I'll pass it to Tina.
Hi, I'm Tina. I wonder how those cats will feel about a puppy, Mariah. I have the same thoughts sometimes, and I have 2 cats, and I think they would have some opinions. Anyway, yeah, so I'm Tina, and my pronouns are she, her. I live in Kailua Kona, Hawaii, which is on the Big Island. And I am also a career changer from a career in teaching. And I'm also in a boot camp currently. And my fun fact, I guess, is I am a competitive outrigger canoe paddler, which is kind of a big sport here. And it also happens on the mainland. So like people in on the West Coast have, yeah, there's like clubs in Oregon and California and Washington. So it's fun, except it's more fun when the water's warm. I will pass to Weston.
Hey everyone, I'm Weston Norwood, he, him pronouns. I live in Seattle, and a fun fact attached to that is my partner and I started seeing each other just prior to the pandemic and haven't really ever traveled together. So we've been together for round about 4 years now and are also in Hawaii right now for our first vacation together. So that's been really exciting. And I'm currently an architect, the building kind, not the software kind. And yeah, moving into or trying to make the pivot into software engineering. I'm going to pass to Arniqua.
Hello. Sorry, I was having some issues with my camera. I'm sure you guys seen it like flick on and off. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, I live in Austin, Texas. I'm originally from Texas. Pronouns she, her. Fun facts. I enjoy working out, so I enjoy lifting weights. I tend to work out about 5 days a week is my goal, 5 to 6 days a week. So I'll pass it to Jennifer.
Cool. Can y'all hear me? Okay, great. Yeah, I was also having technical difficulties earlier. But I'm Jennifer. You can call me Jen. I am a software engineer at a company called Finley Technologies. And we're a pre-seed startup right now. I'm liking the cat action there. Actually, I think October 4th is my work anniversary from this current job, and I had a one job as a developer prior to this as well. In my past life, I like to say, past life, because it was a bit ago, I was a molecular biology researcher. So yeah. Let's see. Oh, my pronouns are she, her. Did I say I was based out of Portland? It's a bit early for me today. There's a birthday party, so I'm kind of forgetting what I said. But anyways, a fun fact. I'm like a very big video game person, and if you can like see from my background all the stuff that I have. And then also, I guess along the languages route, I speak Indonesian as a second language. So, yep. Yeah, those Sailor Moon dolls, OG from the 90s. But anyways, yep.
I'm jealous.
That's a little bit about me.
I want that. Small little tidbit going off course, but for that Sailor Moon, I asked my mom for Christmas. She only gave me one, and I saved up for one, and I never completed my collection. So I think I only have Sailor Moon and Sailor Mercury, and then that's it. So it's like it's still in its
Sailor Mercury's
box.
the best one. She was the OG programmer with the mini computer.
Yes,
anyways.
she was. Anyways, nerding out over here. So, I should have done a better job in preparation. So I'm just going to go with the flow. Mentors, would anybody like to kind of proceed with the conversation? I know I was in charge of the intro, but I know we didn't kind of decide who would like to be the main, person.
Well,
I'm
I
not quite
guess
sure.
just to start out, before we move on, I just want to make sure no one has any questions so far that came up from the orientation or anything like that you want to get kind of squared away before kind of we start off and head into our Git module. Nope. Going once, going twice.
I have
All right.
one.
Oh, yeah.
One question, and this, I don't, you might well be covering this, but we talked about splitting up into pairs each week and doing pair programming. Does that mean that we're both working on the same code and both committing, or does it mean that like we're actually doing a Zoom call and like sharing a screen and like live working on the same piece of code together?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So pair programming, typically, and after this, I can kind of share some resources on pair programming that I'll look up, but essentially the like original format of pair programming is that you have like what is it, a driver and a navigator, I think. And so the idea is that you're both, before COVID, we're like staring at the same screen, and one person was typing on the keyboard, but the other person was kind of relaying their ideas. And you typically halfway through, you would swap so that you'll have kind of like able to get a taste of like the thinking or the typing and like listening and things like that. And the idea behind that, I think we have a communication module as well later on. But the idea behind that is that will kind of forces you to communicate what you're thinking in code, which will happen a lot on the job. And typically in the past, how that works is there's a couple different ways you can Zoom together and then share your screen and then switch off. Or the other way is that if you use VS Code, there's also like a live VS Code live extension that you can download. And both of you, once you're on a Zoom call, can also kind of edit a code document like it's a Google Doc. So that's another cool thing that you could do. But typically in the past, that's how some people have done pair programming for Collab Lab. I don't know if Yolanda or Viet, you have other experiences when you were at Collab as well.
Yeah, yeah. The live share is great, but also yeah, just like kind of who is driver in that.
Yeah.
It's
I hope
about the
that
same with
answers
me.
your
Sorry.
question. Yeah, sorry.
But yeah, I say go with the flow. What works best with the the partner for that time of. For my experience, I was able to meet up synchronous like at the same time with my assigned partner, and I think some collabs in the past couldn't because of either time differences or work obligation, and they couldn't meet up at that same time. And I want to say one of my friends, they did it asynchronously, so they kind of not quite sure exactly how she did it. I can confirm with her. I believe she may have created a separate branch and then they kind of commit like together and kind of work on it before submitting the main thing to that particular branch. But we could just take it step by step and then however works will work. We'll find a solution. So, but that's a great question to ask as well.
Yeah, I hope, does that answer your question?
Yeah, it does.
Great.
Really a newbie over here, so.
That's all right. That's what we're here for. Yeah, and then also just as a quick reminder, our team spans, I think, a 6-hour time difference, if I counted it correctly. So just be mindful of what the time zone that your partner is in. So if you go on Slack, if you click on their profile, you can actually see what time zone they're in. So you never have to, I used to always ask, hey, what time zone you're in? Because I'd always forget. But that's one easy way to check too. So you don't have to ask them every time. But yeah.
Yeah, and if you are when you are working with your partners, it is just a really good habit to get into because we have distributed teams now. To when you are mentioning a time, mention the time zone that you're referring to. So since I live in Central, I will generally say like 2 p.m. Central or whatnot. And even with that, as you know, I got things confused this week. That happened not only with Collab Lab, but with like work things also. So yeah, but it is a good idea just to put it out there that what time zone that you are referring to.
Yep. Great. Any other questions or thoughts, concerns? Nope. All right. Well, Via, you want to take it from here with the Git module?
Jennifer, did Jennifer cut out for everybody or just me?
I was still able to hear her. I don't know. Is it you? Okay, we'll give you a second.
All right.
Welcome to the world of tech. Always technical issues. I had that during work this week. Never works out. So while we wait, I guess we could just kind of go over a little bit about Collab Lab. I forgot to say during the intro, I was a Collabie. I was part of TCL-47, and I believe
TCL-5.
I was about to say, I know Jen and Viet was like the earlier cohorts, so I'm still the baby of the group. But welcome to Collab Lab. I am so excited for this, and I hope you guys learn, and I'll still learn. I am very, very new to the tech world and coding, so if there's any questions, I most likely don't always have the answer, so I'll either Google or I'll reach out and ask for help. And then it's okay to ask questions. My motto is like, there's never stupid questions. My past life as a therapist, I always tell my patients, just let me know. If you can't do anything, we'll find a solution. And it's not practice makes perfect, but practice makes permanent. So the more we do this, we'll get the hang of things and then it'll come easier. And Viet, are you ready? Okay, so back to you.
Nice, thank you for covering for me. All right, so yeah, what Yolanda was saying about practice makes permanent, I think is a really good kind of like lead up to what we're going to talk about with Git. Git is like I'm trying to screen share and it says the host is disabled the screen sharing. But what I wanted to say is that Git is kind of scary at first. There's a lot happening, but there's also so much you can do with like really simple commands. And simple being like, there are 5 or 6 commands that you'll probably will be like 90% of the work that you need to do with Git. All the other stuff, thanks. All the other stuff is kind of like just, you know, sugar on top. So, and with that, let's dive into it. Okay, I am going to start. Let me know if you can't see the screen. Otherwise, I'm just gonna get going with this on how to get at Collab Lab. All right, so just real quick, these are things that we're going to cover today. Creating and switching branches using the git checkout command, staging the changes with git add, saving those changes in your history with git commit, and setting those changes to GitHub with git push, getting the latest changes from GitHub with git pull, and then what we do with getting your changes into the main branch with PRs or pull requests. I have you all like pretty far right of my screen right now, so if you want to ask any questions or something, you feel free to unmute and kind of get my attention because I can't really see you right now. All right. So the terms that we're going to use is a repository. So the repository or the repo, it's, you know, we shorten down to repo, are the collection of files that we are looking at under the source control that we're using, which is Git. When we refer to the remote, this is the work that is sitting on a server somewhere like on GitHub. We refer to the remote as like something that is not on your machine. Whatever's on your computer, we generally refer to as the local versus the remote. All right, so there are branches, and this is the working copy of the repository. The main branch, which is the source of truth, is basically like this is generally what a production, you know, what the application runs off. And then we'll be creating branches off of main to work on. Those are feature branches, which is what you'll be doing on your teams. All right. We have the commit, and these are the changes to the repo. Generally, the head will refer to the latest commit that is on that branch. So if you, and we can run into this later, there's a lot of information. Sorry, if I do mention something and you have a question, please feel free to ask. Yeah, so if you ever look at your Git logs, the head will always kind of refer to like the latest and greatest thing that's on your branch right now, and you can see a list of like changes before that. The pull request or PR. So this is, I guess, I didn't realize this, but this is very specific to GitHub. I've used GitLab like maybe once before, and I remember seeing merge request as the term, but it's basically when you are going to be merging your work back into main, we want to know why. What was the reasoning behind it? What were the tasks you completed? What kind of work was this? Was it a bug fix? Was it a new feature? Yeah, very similar to the template that we have for Collab Lab. My company, Column, has a template that we fill out when opening pull requests. I think this is a very common thing in the software world. All right, everybody good? Okay. So this is a visualization of the branching system that we're using. For now, let's ignore this bottom part and let's concentrate on the top. You can kind of think of the orange as the main branch right now. So as of right now, the head is this feature add button. Now, as you and your team work throughout this week, you might create a separate branch, and in this branch, you're going to commit styles. You're going to add a new style.
And maybe you're going to add some tests also. Now, in parallel with this happening, another team or another developer has merged their changes back into main. And what they did was they updated some text. All right. Now, as you've completed your work, you're going to merge back into the main branch. So this is essentially the visualization of what just happened, right? And this is what the new main branch looks like. It goes through to update text, and then your changes were merged back in, and then from here, the main branch continues. All right, let's go. Oh, yeah, and this was something that another mentor pointed out. This is a really good, also a good visualization of the branching here. The blue here is main. One team is working here, and another team is working on this main branch. So yeah, there's a lot of, I think the mental model is one of the things that I had also a hard time like understanding, but yeah, it's a lot. Please ask us if there's something you don't understand, but yeah, let's continue with the commands that you'll be using for Git. All right, so the Git checkout command, basically there is so in this example, we have a branch called cool feature. On your local machine, you'll probably be on main. And from main, you can run git checkout cool feature to switch to that branch. I want to point out that making changes on a working branch will only be on your computer, on your local. And anything that is on the remote branch will not be affected. So you can, you know, it is a little stressful, but if things break on your local branch, that's okay. We can get it back. In order to create a new branch, we run the git checkout dash. So the dash B is a flag. So we run git checkout dash B, new feature, and that creates a branch. There is another way to do it. That's 2 steps. This is 1 step. I think it's faster and easier. And if you want to know about the other way to do it, we can talk about that later. But this is the simplest way to create and check out a new branch. All right, when you're staging your changes, you're going to run the git add command. With the sync, you can see there's an example with a single file. So the // is saying, hey, this is in this current directory that you're in. And these are commands that you would run in your terminal. So git add / button.js is the file that you want to add, and that would add the file to stage. If you want to add all the files, you know that you've worked on, you know, release a really quick shortcut is a git add with a -- A flag, and then all those files that have changes in them would be staged. All right, in order to, I still have to think about this sometimes, but yeah, you add it, but it's not, there's another step. So you need to commit your changes. And what these do is it kind of like says, yeah, I added these files, and now I'm ready to, sorry, I'm going to use the word to commit the staged files so that we're ready to push, right? When you run the git commit command, you should use the -m flag to write a message. Now, this message can, you know, it doesn't have to be a long message. It's just like, what do these changes contain? And this one contains, says you're updating some heading text. Now, there's another flag, the A flag, that stages the track files. So there are 2 kinds of files when we're talking about Git. There's track files, which means that in a previous snapshot, these files have already been seen. Generally, untracked files are new files. So let's say you created, like, you know, this file had not existed yet. That's considered an untracked file. So I don't think I've ever used a -A flag in the commit myself, but it's here, and we want to present, you know, just explain to you like what the -A flag is here. But yeah, generally I use git commit -m and type a simple message of like the work that is being done in that certain commit. All right. In order to push your changes to the remote, we use the git push command. Now, after you've added and committed, then comes the push. And that sends those changes up to your remote branch. What you need to do the first time is git push with the -u flag. Now the -u just adds an upstream reference to the remote. Origin is the default name that we use for the remote. It could be anything. And again, I think like 99% of the time we're going to use origin. I think I've used a different name once just to see if I can do it. But generally, that's what you'll be doing. You only need to do this one time. Once you are on the cool feature branch doing work on it, and you add and commit your changes, you just need to git push, and it'll figure out that you mean the cool feature branch. So that'll push to the remote's cool feature branch. All right, and now kind of like the inverse of git push is git pull. So you will want to pull in the latest changes from main, and then with if I remember correctly, the way that the cadence that I would kind of suggest doing this is every week. You should pull main in order to create the new branch. You can always create branches off of main anytime, but unless you pull from main, you won't necessarily have the most recent changes. So what this example is saying is, hey, we can from your whatever branch you're on, get checkout to main and get pull, and you'll get the most recent changes. I think we all, Yolanda and Jen, probably will pull from your main branch at work like once a day, probably at the beginning of the day to maybe get the most recent changes before you create your branch, your feature branch. All right, pull requests. I don't want to go too far into this because I think we'll have another talk that covers this, but pull requests are, like I said, it's like the documentation on like why we want to change this, or sorry, why we want to merge these changes into main. GitHub has this really cool, this like really useful UI on it. There are other ways to do it. I think this is the simplest. You can go to GitHub and click on the pull request tab, and this nice green button that is very self-explanatory to create a new pull request. All right, conflicts, they will happen. They seem like a really big deal, and I've lost some sleep over merge conflicts that ended up not being that big of a deal. And also VS Code makes fixing conflicts fairly easy. What conflicts are basically is, let's say your team has worked on line 1, 2, 3 of this file, and another team also worked on the same line in the same file. Git's just asking you like, which one do we want to keep, or which, like, I'm confused. I don't know which one goes where. And it's just asking for help on to explain like what to keep or what to not keep. And this can happen in a very kind of like simple part of the code base. Like think of your imports at the very top of your file. If one person imported on the same line, it's just like, hey, do you want both? Do you want this? Like, I don't know what's going on here. Yeah, so like I think point being is like it can happen anywhere in the file, and even like in a part that in the part of the file where it seems like there should be it's very straightforward and self-explanatory, but Git's just like, you know, just needs a little help. And VS Code has like a really good tool to help us out. This is a screenshot of what a conflict looks like in VS Code. So let's say this is your branch, or this is your work at head, and these 3 lines of code are the changes that are coming in, or sorry, your changes. This is something that, let's say, is that is incoming, so this is coming from main, and it's like, okay, these are both taking up the same line in the same file. I want to know which one to keep. These links up here allow you to just kind of like simply click on current change. So if you clicked on this, it would keep these 3 lines and remove this line. If you want the incoming change, it would keep the line in blue and remove the line in green, or you can actually choose to keep both. When this happens, I'm not going to say if, I think it will happen, but when it happens, I think communication is really key. Just kind of communicate with the other team to see what changes we want. You know, if say like this is the opposite team's work, you know, just kind of ping them on Slack or get on a call and ask them, like, okay, is this something that we do want to keep or not? Or if there's any question, it's just like reach out to the other team or us or the mentors, and we can help guide you through the process of fixing conflicts. But just know, like, it's going to happen, and the first time you have to deal with it, or you know, the 100th time you have to deal with it, it can be stressful, but it can feel stressful, but it's not. Okay, I think that was it for the presentation. So there are great resources. Git documentation, there's a lot there. Like I said, you'll run into a ton of commands, but the ones that were presented today are the ones that you'll need to get started. Atlassian has really good tutorials, which you know, when I'm Googling like how to do things, will take me to the Atlassian tutorial, which I use all the time. Stack Overflow is great. And if you have any questions, you know, ask your team, ask your team members, ask us, your mentors. And I'm going to add these slides with the slides with these links to the channel later on, just for everybody to have. And yeah, that's it. Let me know if you know what questions do you have, or do you have questions, and what do you think of Git?
So my first question you already answered, which is the slides. So thank you, because I definitely will want to go back to those. I had 2 other questions. One is, how often do you typically like commit when you're just working on your, you know, you're working on your local, and you know that what you're working on like isn't done, or maybe has issues, but you're done for like the day. You know, do you commit a lot as you go, or do you wait until it's kind of like in good shape and then you commit?
Yeah, I think this is kind of like it's a very debatable question. That you know, some people make very small commits, and some people don't commit at all until it's like ready to get pushed and a PR is ready to be opened. I think finding a middle ground is really good, but I would say err on committing more often than less often.
Okay, thanks. And then my other question is like, so is there a way to like undo things? You know, if you realize like, okay, I just committed what I didn't want to commit, or I just pushed what I didn't want to push, and you realize it after the fact. Is there some way to like undo things? And if so, what is the secret way to do it?
Yeah, there are many ways to undo things, and this is where I always rely on Google or the Atlassian tutorials, because I forget sometimes. And this is something that we did cover at one point, but I think it was like, okay, this might be a little bit too much information right now. But to answer the question, yeah. So if you haven't pushed yet, there is a way to kind of like undo the commit, essentially, right? I can't remember right now. I'm gonna have to look it up, but there's.
But it's possible. That's
possible.
the big thing. Okay.
If you've also pushed, there is a way to take it back to the state before you've pushed.
Okay.
The 2 ways, and I can tell you the 2 ways right now because I know this one off the top of my head, is a command called git reset or a git revert. They do slightly different things, but it's basically the undo of the previous push. So, but yeah, to answer the question simply, yes.
Perfect. Thanks. Yeah, great. Yep.
Anybody else? Questions? Can I want to ask Yolanda and Jen questions. How do you all feel about Git, and what's your comfort level with Git in general?
Yolanda, do you want to go first? I'm a little bit opinionated about Git, so.
Okay, then I'll go first, and then and then Jen could take it over after that. Terrified at first. I remember when I did my very first Git, like the push. The boot camp I was in, you know, one of the tasks was to find an open source and, you know, and do some sort of commit, and that was terrifying because I was so afraid of breaking things. You know, like what if I mistake, like knowing my luck, I'll find a loophole somewhere and I push my code and it just like breaks everything. Luckily, the community that I was in or am in, you know, I had a one-on-one and, you know, my friend walked me through it, you know, kind of held my hands like, okay, it's all right. Let's screen share. Let's see what you're going to do. Push it. And then if there's a mistake, we'll figure something out. I think there was a mistake, not because it didn't break anything. I might have typed something wrong with the code, but you know, we did the undo and, you know, did it again and then pushed it and it worked out fine. But I was sweating. If you saw my t-shirt that day, the underarms was just like, that's how nervous I was. And I still am. So it's still scary for me. But like kind of what Viet said, like I always go back to Google, like, how do I undo? Like, okay, I didn't want to do that commit. Like, what can I change it? And you know, in the beginning, early, and still right now, experience, sometimes I'll just kind of say, forget it. Let me just erase everything and just start over, you know. And then, but that allows me to have more practice. I am trying to be better at committing more often, because sometimes for me, when I work on, especially with my, you know, personal projects, I'm at this good, you know, area, and I'm like, okay, I turn off my VS Code, and then like the next day, I'm like working on my project again, but I didn't commit what I've, you know, done in the past, and then I've done something, and I break something, and I'm like, oh man. And then what if I want to go back to the old branch, you know, like the old area, I didn't save the good part, you know, it's too far back. So I do like the whole, you know, commit as often as you can. And it's a good, what's the word I'm looking for? Like a journal. So look at Git like a journal, because then you go back, you're like, oh yeah, I did that, you know, oh yeah, I was able to do that. And then if you want to change something, you could go back a few commits and then add a feature and then branch off somewhere else. And I think having that consistent commits help. It's scary, but we're here. I'm still learning. I didn't know about the -am, because when I commit, it's always -m for the message, and I never did the whole tracked untracked scenario. So that was today I learned. But that's kind of like my 2 cents. I'm still learning. It's still scary. I don't use any GUI or no interface. I know some people like GitLab, and oh, there's like a lot out there. I can't think of the names right now. But yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. Still learning since I'm still new in this. But take it away, Jen. I'm very curious what you're gonna say.
Yeah. So I think one thing that really stuck with me, because I also did a boot camp back in the day, was that even very, very senior developers, a lot of them know just the basic commands, and then they can live their happy developer life just knowing the commands that you all saw on this slide or a set. The thing is, for me personally, Git was always something that was very interesting to me. And I was always a fan of microcommitting, kind of for all the same reasons Yolanda and Viet were saying. You just want to commit as often. Once something's working, then you want to do some experiments, and then you commit again. So, but the thing is, after working with my current team, sometimes micro-committing can be kind of annoying for other people, because from a reviewer's perspective, it's let's say at my job, we have a mono repo. And so if I introduce a new feature, it can touch like 20 different files across the code base. So looking at all of those changes all at once for a reviewer might be very, very difficult. So what I do in my personal workflow is I will micro commit, and then once it comes time to review, I'll take a look at my commit history for my current branch. And the cool thing about Git is that it's just keeping track of all these changes. You can say, basically, you're just naming save points. So once I get to the point where I'm going to ask for my branch for review, I'll usually go back in with the rebase command and kind of move around some commits, consolidate some things. If I'm working on 2 projects and I have to switch between branches and something's broken and I'm not ready to do anything yet, I will put in a work in progress commit that I can use the reset head thing later to pop off instead of using git stash. So the thing is, Git is a very feature rich thing that you can use to kind of make your life easier and your reviewers' life easier to kind of like streamline, what do you call it, collaboration on your code. Like things like merge conflicts and stuff are really, really scary at first. Or like if you rebase for the first time, it's super scary because you're like, what does this mean? What do you mean I'm on a headless commit? I don't know what that means. So like all of these things sound really scary, but the thing is that Git also has like all the states that Git was in the past. They don't usually tell you this. So if you really mess up really bad, you can go back a few times, even if your like Git commit history has completely changed. So like there's a lot of tools out there for your disposal if you need them. So you don't have to be too scared that you'll burn everything to the ground, because typically there is a way to get it back if you've committed a lot of times along the way. So that is my opinion on Git.
Nice, I like it. And just like one anecdote real quick is when I started at my company, we used to do it a very specific way. And then we got a senior engineer came out and was like, why are we doing it this way? Like, and we had a discussion, and we've since changed over our process of like, we used to, I won't go into the details, but we've switched our workflow a little bit. So there are differing opinions, and none of them, there's not one, just like with coding, there's not one right way. There are many different ways. Tina, I see your question in there, and I want to answer the basic commands that I've presented here. I will now do them through VS Code. I used to do everything through my terminal, like all Git commands, everything happening through my terminal, just because I really like working in the terminal. But just for the speed of use and just like everyday use, I'll like commit and put messages in through VS Code.
Yeah, thanks. I just was wondering that, and I see the other responses about terminal. The way that I learned to do it was through the terminal, and then I only like fairly recently realized that VS Code has all these tools and that you have that option. And yeah, so I just wondered if it sounds like it's just more personal preference or whatever your employer wants you to do.
Yeah, it's definitely personal preference. I don't see if you like doing it one way and it works for you, you can continue doing it. But it's also like, hey, I want to learn also like know of this other way or other ways of doing things, and that's also good to know.
I just want to say it's like probably a good time, if not a good time, but if you want to explore, like this is a good opportunity through Collab Lab if you want to, try terminal, if not, other format of like the applications. I don't use it, so I don't really know what's out there, but I know there's quite a few. So like what Viet and Jen said, I started with the terminal and I just kind of stuck with it. And Tina, like what you said, I fairly found out like a few months ago, I'm like, oh, yeah, I guess I could have done that in VS Code because there was like a push button. I'm like, oh, like, well, that's news because I never explore. I'm just so used to just opening up the terminal and doing it that way. But yeah, it's a good time to just try it. Don't worry about breaking things, everyone. Please don't get, what is the quote from the Magic School Bus from Miss Frizzle, like get messy. Oh, what was it? Like the try, get messy, and it's okay kind of thing. So definitely kind of try that during this Collab Lab. try new things, see what happens. And if something does happen, I'm going to learn as well. Because then I'm like, oh, I haven't seen that before. So then that allows me to put more in my like bag of tricks. It's like, oh, okay, I've learned that. Cool. Let's, figure out a way to solve it. So yeah, exactly. Let's have fun. It's okay to be scary or scared. Don't, but that's part of the process. So yeah.
And I do want to mention that there will always be a way back. Like even if we have to throw away the entire branch, we can get it. We can get things back. Like I'm sure Jen and Yolanda have done this also at some points. Like this branch is lost. I've got work somewhere else that I'm just going to throw this branch away and start over. So that there is kind of like the nuclear option there. Something I did want to cover, I did want to ask that wasn't on the agenda today, that I saw another mentor and another group ask is about locking down main, and this is a decision the group should make, whether or not we want to allow pushing straight to main, or if we want to ensure that PRs need to be reviewed before that happens. Because as you all have done already, you made the changes to the contributors file and were able to push directly to main. In most cases, most work environments, that's not something that is safe to do. But if you want to get into the practice of doing this, we can agree as a group to lock down main so that pull requests need to be reviewed and before they can be merged. Does any what are your thoughts on this?
I think it's a good idea to lock it down and do the reviews. I mean, especially if that's kind of the standard practice, it makes sense to follow that.
Okay, cool. Thanks, Tina. Does anybody have like strong opinions, and you want to play fast and loose and just let main be like open? If not, and if everybody is okay with that, I'll make that like an action item for me to go into GitHub and lock down main, if that works for you two, Jen and Yolanda. Cool.
Yeah. And just to back that up, kind of the thought process behind that, especially at work, as main is typically the production branch. And so if you give everyone rights to the production branch and they willy-nilly make changes in production, things go down very quickly. So that is to simulate that.
However, if this team really wants to try it out, I mean, it's a learning process, just putting it out there. Typically, I agree with Tina and Jen. I would prefer to lock it, but this, like Jen says, like a sandbox. We can live, life to the fullest and give it a go. But yeah, just putting it out there.
Great. Yeah, so if no one else has any immediate great questions right now, I want to be mindful of everyone's time because I think we only have about 8 minutes left. And so I want to go over the issues that you all are going to tackle this week really quickly, and then kind of answer any upfront questions about the requirements. So let me share. Is that the right one? All right, can you all see my screen here? So I'm in the project brief. Basically, you can use the project brief to see who you're supposed to be pairing up with at any time during the weeks here. And so we can go over this week. We have Tina and Mariah are one team, and Weston and Arniqua are on another team. So I'll take a look. So basically every week what we'll do is we'll go over the issues, read them together, make sure there are no questions. And then since you know who your pairs are, you'll kind of call dibsies on which issue that you want to tackle. And then it's a free-for-all. So you all negotiate amongst yourselves which ones you want to do. But let's start going over the issues today. So for the first issue here, we have, as a user, I want to read the names of all items in my shopping list. So the most important feature of our app is the ability to look at what's on the list so the user knows what they need to buy. The list component is the best place in our code to do that. In fact, this feature is already partially implemented. You can refer to the acceptance criteria in this issue and the existing code to understand the work that remains. So the list component is rendered on the list page. Because the navigation links are currently broken, you'll have to type that path into your browser's address. So what they mean is there's just no button going to that direction. So the acceptance criteria. So this is every week when you're looking at an issue, the very important things like the minimum viable feature for this ask are these three things. So the stream list items function is used in app.jsx to get the items in the current list from the Firestore database. The list is passed into the list component as a prop named data. And in the list.jsx, the list item component is used to render the name of each item. So one thing that I also like to say is usually when you join Collab Lab, you get very excited in the beginning and really want to start building out the app, putting some styling and making like, oh, this feature would be cool to add and stuff like that. But I would highly, I don't want to say discourage, but one thing that you want to try to mimic as in like a working on a real team is when a ticket has specific acceptance criteria to really stay as close to the original scope as possible. You'll see in the notes down here of this issue that it's emphasizing your only goal is to make sure that the names of the items render as expected, because future issues might actually tackle displaying more detailed information or styling or things like that. So I encourage you all to kind of look to the future to see what other issues you'll tackle so that at least earlier on for the first like few weeks, try not to go too much outside the acceptance criteria. That's just the way that works best, I find, so that you don't end up later weeks being like, oh, we already did this. I wonder what we're going to do this week now. So with that being said, there's also a wireframe for what it will look like, and you can click on that here. So ooh, beautiful, nice wireframe. So you have a good idea of kind of the direction that we're going to be going. And then, yeah, so the data you need is already being passed in to the list component, what steps you need in order to render it. So this is the first issue. And then the second issue is, as a user, I want to be able to navigate to all the pages in the application by clicking the links in the nav bar. So users need to be able to navigate between the pages of our application in order to access all of its features. There is a navigation bar in the layout.jsx component, but it's not quite feature complete. The links in the nav element don't actually allow the user to navigate from page to page. So the key acceptance criteria for this issue is the nav element is added to the layout component. Links to the home, list, and add item pages of the app are in the nav element, and the links all function as expected using nav link component from the React router DOM. So some great notes here. They have the official docs linked here. But yeah, and it also gives a flag of in a React app, you typically don't want to use an anchor tag, and you can experiment and add an anchor tag and see what happens and why you wouldn't want to do that. I won't spill the beans there. So, oops, we have these two issues. Kind of, I think it was Team Tina and Mariah and Team Weston or Aniqua. Who would like what issue?
My vote is for issue 2.
Okay, so you're with Weston this week, right?
Yes.
And this is you and, oops. Yes. And then the other group is, oh, think is your last name. I think this is you, right, Tina?
Yeah, that's me. Sorry. Oh,
Okay.
I don't know why my name. Okay, I'll fix that. Why my name isn't coming up.
Right there. All right, perfect. So we have our issues assigned. Another cool thing is that typically you can also see the Kanban board of the issues here, and we'll use this to kind of go in and see what is up for review. So another part of the process is that kind of going over the cadence of the week. Typically, it'd be great if you could try to get in your code for review, one to the other team, and then gets it handed off to the mentors in by Wednesday, because reviews, since we're doing them asynchronously, takes like quite a few days to do some back and forth, kind of in case you need to have mentors help you out and things like that. Kind of getting started earlier really helps, so that once we review, by the time we get to demos on Saturday, we'll be able to kind of move on more cleanly to the issues in the next week. So if you have any questions about that sort of cadence as well, feel free to ask now or later if anything comes up. But basically, once you open up a PR and you have the other team review, then it goes to mentor review. And then once everybody approves, then it gets merged into main. So we'll use this Kanban board to see what PRs linked to these issues are going to be ready for review. So please don't forget to change this in the Kanban board so that everybody is on the same page of what's kind of happening, what's in progress, what needs review and things like that. And also feel free to just message people in the Slack too. Hey, my PR is ready for review, and just add the people that you need to tag. But yeah, so, and this is not obvious where it originally is. So this is under the projects tab, and then you can click Smart Shopping List, and this is where the Kanban board lives. Are there any questions so far?
I think something was mentioned in the orientation about like doing a draft PR.
Yes, okay, I can go over that as well.
Okay.
So if you go into pull requests, if you click new pull requests, it won't. Good. Let me make a
You can
branch
choose
really quick.
add Firebase branch, I think, right?
Let me
The right side.
share a portion of my screen so I can bring in. Let's part of today was supposed to also be showing you how to make a new branch, right? So I like to git checkout -b, and I'm gonna call this gen new stuff. Please don't name your stuff like this, but this is just for illustrative purposes. So I'm gonna make a change here, some stuff, and then yeah, all right. So I pushed up this new branch up into our repository. So now there, what you can do is I'm in pull requests. It'll say, hey, you have new stuff. Would you like to create a pull request? Yes, I would. So the great thing about this is we also have kind of a whole, template on what you kind of contextual information you want to give to the other group for your PR and also the reviewers. But the nice thing as well is that if you see this arrow down here, instead of creating an actual like pull request that's open that says, hey, this is most likely very close to done and almost ready for review, you can actually click create draft pull request. And then I can go in. This is a pull request for some stuff. And then the changes here, this is a new feature as well, let's say as a bug fix. and then I could take pictures. So I'm gonna make sure that this is going to draft pull request and click draft pull request. So the nice thing about having a draft pull request like this is you can kind of have a centralized place to comment and kind of asynchronously work out either with the other team or your team member or your pair team member on like code and how to review it and things like that. So this is like a good thing to start at the beginning of the week. You create your new branch, you create your draft PR of what you'd like to accomplish, and then kind of all discussion for your PR can live here. That way, like what's really great about having all of this on GitHub is that in the future, if you're like, hey, I ran into this issue last time when I was in a Collab lab, let's go back to this repo, and then all of the notes of like what issues you're encountering or everything happen to be there. And then the nice thing is too, you also have, you know which branch this specific thing is. So you don't have to remember the branch name. You can just go ahead and then pull down from origin and then check out to this branch. So that's a good way to kind of anchor yourselves for the week. But yeah, I will probably go ahead and close this pull request. But yeah, were there any questions there?
I have one question.
Yes.
Because I thought I remembered, do we have a I can't think of like the word I want, but like the format for how we want to name branches? Has that been discussed?
I vaguely remember, but it was a long time ago. I think what we did was we would put the 3 initials if you have a middle name, but if you don't, it can be 2 initials too. Of it's like one pair person, the other pair person, and then the feature they're adding. And then typically branches are kebab case. So there is a dash between, at least at my work, there is a dash between the separate words. So, but if there is a different kind of naming structure you all want to do, feel free to hash it out in Slack as well. That's something that's very fluid and highly group preference. Cool. Well, I think that was mostly it for this weekly sync. Apologize, we went over a little bit today. In the future, we'll keep more on track in terms of time, just to be mindful of everybody's schedule. But if there are no other questions for the week, as always, feel free to drop any questions in Slack and at the mentors or at the other team. Also, I believe this upcoming week, Yolanda, you'll be holding office hours. And so every week, one of the mentors will be holding office hours, and they'll probably post either tomorrow or on Monday what day that'll be. So you can kind of drop in at any time. Also, it'd be really helpful when they post their hours. If you do want to show up for office hours or you plan to, please let them know. Sometimes life comes up. And if nobody is going to be utilizing office hours, sometimes we end up doing other stuff. So just let us know that you want to show up to office hours and we'll be there because it's here for you guys. All right, sweet. Yolanda, yet anything else?
Nope.
I don't think so. Yep. Don't be afraid to ask question. Ask away. I know it's overwhelming right now, but just refer back to this video as well. You know, and if something like, oh, I don't remember, ask away. But have fun as well, everyone.
Yeah, and just to piggyback on that, please be loud on Slack. Like, just, you know, if you're at all stuck, let us know. You know, or ask us, ask the other group. Yeah, we're here for you.
Oh, the only other thing that I have a small request is that most of the communication between pairs live in our TCL-47 channel. So kind of something that we like to do at work is that we try really hard 90% of the time not to discuss a lot of things in DMs because we're working remotely. It's hard to kind of get that same environment of everyone working at the same office and just like overhearing of what everyone else is working on. So to kind of simulate that and kind of help you feel more grounded and more connected to what everyone's working on, I highly suggest that just all questions, all communications happen in our TCL-47 channel. Sweet. All right, with that, see you all next week.
All right, everyone, have a good one. See you
everyone.
guys next week.